Katie Pavlich from townhall.com joins us on the program to talk about perhaps some new news regarding Andrew Traver, who was nominated by Barack Obama to head the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Katie, good evening to you. Thanks very much for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right, so Andrew Traver, we heard Andrew Traver's name brought up quite a bit last time Eric Holder testified before the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. People like Jerry Connolly, who was one of the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee, asking, well, why can't we get a hearing for Andrew Traver, the head of the ATF? So what is the latest with Mr. Traver?
Well, the latest is, I'm sure that all your listeners are familiar because they're Second Amendment supporters. But Andrew Traver is a anti-Second Amendment special agent in charge of the ATF Chicago Field Division. He was nominated by Barack Obama, of course, because they're both from Chicago. Scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Right.
And his nomination was pretty much dead on arrival in the Senate. He's been waiting for a confirmation hearing, not just a confirmation, but a confirmation hearing for over a year now. And the reason is because he is so anti-gun that people don't feel like, A, he's going to get confirmed, so what's the point of having a committee hearing about it? And B, he's just very he's just not what the ATF should have in terms of being in charge. And so the latest is he's feeling like his feelings are hurt, and instead of staying in Chicago where he chose to be, he's going to charge the taxpayers $1 million so he can go back to his hometown of Denver while he continues to wait confirmation by the Senate, which will probably never happen. The only way that Andrew Traver will ever be the director of ATF is if Barack Obama appoints him during recess. And so, the reason why he moved, I assume, to Chicago is to make sure he could get in with the next administration with Rahm Emanuel,
right.
Barack Obama. And now that he's been sitting around for a year in Chicago, I'm sorry?
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Sorry, I think I heard Cam in the control room. All I was saying is I think that he's now moved back to Denver to await his confirmation hearing.
Okay. Now, what is this? You mentioned $1 million. Is that what this is going to cost the taxpayers?
Yeah. Every time. This is the thing. Is the ATF is really good. Is really good at spending other people's money, and so every time they transfer someone, it costs $500,000 to $1 million in taxpayer funding. So between the move, between doing all the paperwork, that's how much it costs. So yes, it will cost taxpayers $1 million. ATF won't blink twice, and Andrew Traver will still be Barack Obama's nominee for ATF director.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what has Traver ever made any public comments, Katie, about Operation Fast and Furious?
He has not. He has not made any public comments. As you remember, as I do, he made up that entire news story. I believe it was a little over a year ago in Chicago, and he used a semi-automatic rifle and claimed it was an automatic gun that was being found on the streets of Chicago. Basically, the entire news package is completely made up. And so, when you combine that with his anti-Second Amendment record and willingness to push policies through ATF, which is supposed to be a law enforcement bureau, things aren't looking good for him. But regardless, he chose to, the issue here is how much money it's going to cost taxpayers because he's upset that he's not getting confirmed in Chicago and that his initial move to that city isn't paying off in the way that the Chicago way usually does. He hasn't been confirmed yet, and his reward has not been reaped for getting cozy with Rahm Emanuel and Barack Obama.
Interesting. And, speaking of Rahm Emanuel, he has proposed a statewide handgun registry, and I saw one of the columnists in the Chicago area says, well, this means that Rahm Emanuel is not running for governor because, if that's the kind of proposal that you're going to put forth, it may appeal to the Chicagoland voters, but it's not going to appeal anywhere outside of Chicago. So again, I think hitching your star to a gun control advocate like Rahm Emanuel is a bad idea, even in Illinois, even with the Chicago way.
Right.
But, bottom line is, as you say, this administration has not nominated somebody who frankly, has a great record when it comes to respecting or even telling the truth about the Second Amendment. We've all seen that video from NBC where they're shooting off full autos, and Andrew Traver's there, and they're talking about semi-automatic firearms, but they're shooting machine guns.
Right, exactly. And it all goes back to, as we learn more and more about Fast and Furious and the motives behind the operation, it goes back to just the way this administration in general has gone about pushing unpopular policies. They do it through unelected bureaucrats. And Andrew Traver was supposed to be one of those people. Rahm Emanuel knew that talking about gun control, especially in a first term, would be political suicide for Barack Obama, not only in the midterm elections, which they lost based on the economy, but also for his 2012 reelection campaign. And so, once again, they were putting people in place, including Andrew Traver, to push through policies in bureaucratic positions. And if you talk to any of the ATF whistleblowers or ATF agents now, a lot of them would tell you that ATF has become a bureau where the administration and the Department of Justice feels is the place they're going to push through policy. And a lot of them say, I didn't sign up for that job. I'm a law enforcement agent. It isn't our job to enforce policy through our bureaus and to hold gun owners accountable to new regulations that we see fit to our political policies. That's not the way ATF is supposed to work.
Talking with Katie Pavlich from townhall.com. Katie, as always, real pleasure having you on the program. Hope that we can do this again soon, and please keep up the great reporting, will you?
Absolutely, Bill. We'll talk to you soon.